All right. I called this workshop to order at 6:14. All right. Welcome to the MRP Workshop, also known as Member Recognition Program, starring Norma and I. Unfortunately, Norma couldn't make it today because she was in an unfortunate horse training accident. Actually, that's not what happened. She has class. So, what is MRP? Can't tell if I want someone to answer this or not, so I'll give like someone 10 seconds to blurt it out.
MRP.
I prefer MRP, but you know, it's okay. But yeah, MRP, the Member Recognition Program, where we recognize members. Hold on. I'm gonna explain a little more on this slide. Okay. So member recognition is mostly on the district level. So for those that aren't familiar, Circle K has many different little levels. So we're in the club level, there's a division level, which covers like a region, and then there's the district, which can cover multiple states. So these are directives that are decided within the district. So you, along with many other people in all different schools all over our district, can also follow through with all these kinds of rewards. So what kind of certificates can you get? 4 categories: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And obviously, the more rarer and valuable the medal, except platinum, I actually have no idea if that's more valuable than gold. I don't think it is. But anyway, in this case, it is. Those are the 4 types of rewards you can get. And obviously, it's quote unquote harder to get each subsequent one. And by harder, I mean more involvement is required. So how do you achieve such rewards and medals? Well, there are 3 requirements, and I will go in reverse order. Starting with dues paid member, because this is the easiest one. If you are not a dues paid member, you are not eligible for these. In fact, if you're not a dues paid member, I don't really think you're eligible for many of the events here for the club. So yeah, pay your dues, become an official member, join the family. And now with requirements. So this is something I'll point out a little later when I have like an example slide of our calendar, but you might start noticing that some of our events have little tags attached to them, such as AD or SE, things like that. For example, this event has WB attached to it, which means webinar. And if you believe it or not, that is also one of the required tags you have to hit a certain amount of. And that's basically what those requirements are, is they're all different kinds of those tags on events that you have to hit a certain amount of. You can go over, but if you are under the limit, you are not eligible for that tier of reward. And now finally, the easiest one to understand, but the hardest one to do, because we're just so busy these days, is hours. Basically, the amount of hours you dedicate to the club that are logged within the club's records. So starting with hours, this will be a shock for many of you. For back in the past, MRP used to only be based off service, but starting this year, it is now based off all 3 hour categories: service, leadership, and fellowship. So that good old meme of leadership hours don't mean anything, well, they mean something now. So this is the little thing I was referencing earlier. So this is our good old calendar that is part of our CSULB CKI website. If someone wants to paste that link in for me right now, that would be swell. So you'll notice that they're color coded. The big important thing to point out about these color codes is that you see these 3 major colors: blue, purple, and green. Blue dictate leadership events. These are things where, well, I mean, put it simply, you lead, but they're things you can host. They're like meetings where you get like, sort of like, you know, administrative stuff done, hence the AD tag. Purple events are social events. So the Bob Ross paint night that was hosted yesterday, or the tutorial night me and Lenore hosted, or that speedfriending social we had after last week's GM. Things where you have fun and get together, do fun activities. And then finally service, which are notated in green, which is basically community service events. There's other colors here, but I won't explain them for the issue of time unless someone asks at the end and wants to know, but they're kind of self-explanatory here as the colors are labeled. The different tags that are also applicable to these events are also labeled. I just couldn't screenshot this entire thing because my screen's not big enough. But under this little filter tag, you'll notice there's a little scroll bar here that lists all the possible tags for events. So now for requirements. There's a lot of requirements, so if you do ever have any questions, you are always free to reach out to me, Norma, or even eBoard itself, or even old members, because we're all pretty well familiar with these. MD, which stands for a member development or education event, is usually typically reserved for events where they do just that. We develop or educate members of the club. This is usually on things like usually things CKI related, so kind of what's going on right now. This is an MD event as I'm educating the general members and board on the new MRP requirements. Alumni events with the AL tag had a certain amount of former Circle K members that had to have been CSULB Circle K members attend. Kiwanis family, oh, this is missing an I. Anyway, same thing as alumni, but instead of alumni, it is now members of different Kiwanis family clubs. So Key Club, Kiwans, or the good old Kiwanis themselves, the OGs, the people who own our housing, and that's why we can't afford houses anyway. Yeah. Moving on, interclubs. This is defined for any activity that is done with another Circle K club. A good example of these is our service marathons, which have primarily been interclubs. The previous one was with, I believe, UCR, and the one before was within UCI. Next is a divisional event, usually notated with the DV. This is something that's hosted within our Metro division. Just look out for events that have this tag if you need it. They are few and far between. Usually the most common one is the divisional conference meeting, which is our DCM, which is usually held at the end of the month. They are also announced in our Discord server announcements if you ever are available to go. District events are a little more variety. There are district board meetings you can go to, but they're kind of boring, so you don't have to force yourself. And then there's a lot more to choose from. FTC is going to be one of those district events, I believe, and there are probably like 3 days at which you can go to. So that is one way to get this tag. An international tag is kind of irrelevant, but this is, as it says, international events. So the most common one is called Circle KX, which is usually held at some point in the world where Circle K clubs from all over the world will come and join in the same festivities we usually do: leadership, fellowship, and service. Circle K International really is an international organization, believe it or not. The problem with this tag is, as I confirmed with the district secretary, there is only one, and it happened in July. So you literally cannot get this tag anymore, especially if you're a new member. But that's okay, as you'll see later. Next is these special tags. We call them additional requirements. So media submitted. This is easier to do on the club level, but can be done in district. I would actually have to get that information for you on what this applies to for district, but within our club itself, the easiest way to do this is to submit articles for our newsletters, usually quarterly based off the seasons. So we've had our spring letter newsletter released and our summer one on the way, and then fall and winter to follow. So if you want easy media submitted opportunities, volunteer to write an article for one of those events. Next, chairing events. That's right, doing what I'm doing now, leading an event, or being like Yazid yesterday and leading us all in a painting social. Chairing an event is also a requirement. You do not have to chair many, but you do have to chair at least one. Next, webinars attended. So like this, educational events, things that are educating us on things. But webinars are a little more broad. They don't have to educate on CKI, they can honestly be about anything, and are open to general members to host as well. If you wanted to host a webinar on why NCT is better than BTS, by all means, go ahead. You just have to come up with slides and give us a sent to eBoard for approval on whether or not this is appropriate. And then hosting a workshop or a webinar. Workshop and webinar are interchangeable. So like chairing an event, like this webinar we're doing right now, is to host one and to be a part of one. Well, sorry, being a part of one is literally attending it. I mean, literally hosting it. Like you created it and you're now explaining it to everyone. Yes. So checkmark requirements means it's either a yes or a no. So a fundraiser, things like the auction night we had a couple of weeks ago. When I come to think of it, I think most of the new members, they weren't around for our auctions. So yeah, or our fundraisers yet, but there will be more to come. You only have to go to one or participate in one, and then you're good to go on this. Same for committee member. I do not know if committees are going to open up again and add new members. I believe an impact team will also satisfy this requirement, as it's technically a committee. And also it'll help too, since committees might be closed and just hard to get in them since they already have positions filled. But it basically just means that you're serving on one of the committees, either technology, fellowship, or media. Now for hours. This is self-explanatory. You don't feel the need to take notes or screenshot. There is a much more helpful infographic that is at the end of all these slides. But for hours, service 35, leadership 20, fellowship 15. And then these are the club requirements. I will not read them all out as that is redundant, and they will be on the nice little infographic at the end. And so on and so forth. Silver hours, as you can see here, you'll notice how obviously as the recognition reward gets better in value, so does the requirements required to achieve it, as along with the requirements for certain events. And then the gold hours, their requirements. And finally, the coveted Member Recognition Platinum Award. Last year, CSULB had 3 of these members who are in this call right now. It was me, Audrey, and Lenore, who are all on eBoard. So if you get our Member Recognition Platinum, that means you're going to be on eBoard next year. Just kidding. That's correlation, not causation. Anyway, I actually don't know if that's what that means, but whatever. Yeah, 145 service hours may seem like a lot, but it was 160 last year. And the year before that, and all the years from what I understand, 200. So definitely okay. And it really adds up over time. But obviously, I think one thing to understand about all these rewards before I move on is you're not forced to get any of these rewards. This is all personal achievement or what your own goals are. I don't know if I have a slide for this. So if I don't, I'll say it at the very end. I'll expand on it. But of course, this one will obviously have the most stringent requirements to achieve. And now this is a nice little template, that infographic that shows everything that is necessary. The most important change among all these, besides the addition of now all 3 different hours, is that the additional requirements have also changed. In prior years, these used to be higher. In fact, Platinum required all 13 of them. And thankfully now, it only requires 10. So for most of us who weren't able to attend Circle KX, it doesn't matter that we can't attend literally any international event because they don't exist anymore, for our term at least, because you have all 12 other ones to accomplish. So hooray for that. So how do you count your hours? Does anyone want to answer this? I'll give like 5 or 10 seconds. All right, I will answer. With numbers. Come on, people. Like, what do you think this is, algebra? But more seriously, they're served. What is a serve? It is a club event report form. Everything you attend is logged to the best of the chair's ability onto a form or in their mind to later be submitted into a nice little Google Doc form or Excel spreadsheet. These hours These all chairs are responsible for submitting these forms, or someone else who's at the event if the chair, or if they desire so, or the chair puts that onus on them. But with those serves, it then goes to me, the secretary, where I have a giant Excel document where I log where I log all the events details, each individual person's hours, who attended, all the surf tags, so on and so forth, going all the way back to the beginning of March when my term started. So how do you track your hours? Well, that's pretty much self-explanatory already. I do. But how do you say you want to know your hours, or how you're doing and how you're progressing? How else could you know that? What do y'all think? Who do you think you got to ask?
Look at it.
Wow. Oh my God. I would have never guessed. Yeah, ask me. Ask me anything. I won't give you an answer, but if it has to do with your hours in CKI, I'll give you an answer because that's my job. And I love my job. Just kidding. I'm not paid for this. Anyway, yes, I will always do my best to give update hour and MRP progress questions to all of you. Over the next couple weeks or so, it'll be a little behind because we have not officially inducted new members yet. So especially for new members, I do not have your information attended or implemented, but I do have your hours logged for all of you who have been joining us ever since May, since that is when the first prospective member joined us. And beyond just asking me, there are also recognition email updates. These will be starting soon and are sent by both Norma and I, which gives us a nice little email update, usually around bi-monthly, about your progress on MRP, just so it gives you a reminder of where you are and what you have left to do. So questions. Does anyone have any questions for me? Yes, Lenore.
If there are 30 cows and 28 chicken, how many duties?
10.
Thank you.
No problem. Yes, to the one who asked me, the slides will be posted, probably on the website blog. But I will confer that with eBoard. Yes, Kyla.
For the graphic that displays all of the numbers for the requirements for each level, will that be on our website? Like how do everyone get access to that?
Yes, thank you for your question. I'll put in a request to our tech committee to have that added to the website. First, maybe in a blog post, but also as a drop down, as we did last year as well for our website. Don't be shy. The world is your oyster, and I am your knowledge oyster. I don't know many things, but I mean, you know, like it's. Alrighty. You're right, Pearl. You don't have to take screenshots. That is Kyla's job because she's a historian. And I log all your hours, and the chairs log your hours. So it's all good. So then I guess quick thing to do, then to note, as I mentioned, I was going to, obviously in the advertisement for this, I said how you can put this on your resume or your CV. Well, it is possible. I have my Platinum Award on my CV, explained and everything in my certificates award section. So these are real things that are of tangible use beyond just stuff like a participation trophy. Especially if you don't have a lot to fill your resume or CV out with, these things do show that you're dedicated to something meaningful and are willing to put in time and effort to get things done and do meaningful acts of service, fellowship, and leadership. Yes. But yeah, other than that, oh, yes, Kyla.
Another quick question. For the newsletter articles, does that fall under the media submitted category or tag?
Yes, if I was a little confusing on that part, media submitted, then submitting an article for the newsletter is the easiest way to get your counting for that media submitted requirement.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Yes, Lenore.
I might have missed it, but did you say how often you would be updating members on their statuses, stati?
We are, yes, thank you. We're shooting for bi-monthly.
Thank you.
Yes. And when will the first email be sent? As that's probably a question in someone's head. And if it's not a question in someone's head, I shouldn't have brought it up so I don't put this liability on myself. But one day. No, I'm kidding. It's uncertain because we're not sure what we want to include new. We probably want to include new members with it. So it's delaying a little. So definitely by NMI, that first email will be sent out. But just between you, me, the people here, and the ones who actually watching this recording, y'all are really slacking. Anyway. Just kidding. No one uses Slack anymore. Anyway, that's a joke. No one's going to understand. Anyway, so yeah. Thank you for participating in this workshop of MRP.